This is based on a true story. Back in Laos, where Hmong people were still wearing Hmong clothes, a sister and her sister-in-law went to the farm early in the morning. Each of them were wearing tu sao. When they got to the farm, the sister-in-law told the sister to go pick cucumbers from the top of the hill, and the sister-in-law herself will go pick cucumbers from the bottom of the hill. The sister did as what she was told and went up the hill to pick cucumbers. Once her back basket was filled with cucumbers, she returned down to the spot that her sister-in-law directed her to go up the hill. The sister did as what she was told and went up the hill to pick cucumbers. Once her back basket was filled with cucumbers, she returned down to the spot that her sister-in-law directed her to go up the hill and called downhill to her sister-in-law. She called, "Sister-in-law, is your back basket full yet? If it's full, come up and let's go home." But there was no reply. She called a few more times, yet there was still no reply. Fearing something had gone wrong, she quickly sent her back basket down and rushed downhill to check on her sister-in-law. When she reached downhill, her sister-in-law was nowhere in sight. But next, a tree stump was her sister-in-law's back basket filled with cucumbers. Next to her sister-in-law's back basket was one of her sister-in-law's sao. She scanned the surroundings again, checked to see if there was anything he struggles with within the area, but noticed no difference. More downhill, there was a small river. So the sister thought to herself, maybe her sister-in-law went down the river after picking cucumbers to wash her hands. So the sister decided to go down the river to look for her sister-in-law. But after about 10 steps forward, the sister saw the other side of her sister-in-law. By now, her heart started racing, but she was quietly told herself to be brave and ran down all the way to the river. Once she reached the river, she called out to her sister-in-law again, and once again, there was no reply. Now, she was really scared, so she turned back and started running up the hill, grabbing both her sister-in-law's sao as she passed them all the way down to her own back basket and put it on again and rushed home. When she reached home, she told her parents and Shong, the brother that married her sister-in-law, about what happened. Shong quickly went to gather around 15 and 16 men in town to go look for his wife, each man carrying guns and knives in their hands. However, after a whole day of searching, there was still no sight of his lost wife. Night started covering over the hills. The couple of men start saying, "Hey, it's getting dark and we can't find any sight of her, so let's go home and return back to look again tomorrow." Crying, Shong replied, "No, we are the men here with knives and guns. There is nothing to fear. We should continue this search till we find my wife." Although most of the men wanted to leave because they were starting to feel chills, seeing Shong crying, they felt bad for the man, so they decided to continue the search with him. But deeper they went into the woods looking for Shong's wife, the more chills they start feeling. With each chill, goosebumps start rising in their flesh and their heartbeats start racing. About 10 minutes later, Shong heard his wife's voice echoing in the air. "Shong, I'm over here. Come over here." Shong turned to the rest of the men and said, "Hey, I hear my wife calling me over there. She says she's over there. Did you guys hear it too?" All the men now stopped dead in tracks, glanced at each other. They shook their head and replied, "No, we did not hear anything." Before Shong could say anything else, he heard his wife's voice calling him again. He looks towards where his wife's voice was echoing from and pointed ahead. "My wife is calling me from ahead, so we must get going. Move ahead." Before anyone can stop Shong, he pushed on forward, heart racing faster and fear beaming on all the men's face. They trailed closely after Shong. 5 minutes later, everyone including Shong stopped dead in track again. For this time, they all heard Shong's voice ranging through the air. "Shong, I'm over here. Come over here." One of the men noticed that the voice was too close to them, so he quickly said, "Your wife sounds very nearby. Let's get our guns ready." Everyone starts pulling bullets out of their pockets and stuffing in their guns. As Shong reached into his pocket for his bullet, he pulled out instead his wife's ring. By now, Shong's heart shook with chills as he quietly said, "This is my wife's ring. She wore it this morning. How did it get in my pocket?" And upon hearing this, everyone now shook with fear of what's going on. But they pushed forward. However, after 3 to 4 steps only, they saw on the ground in front of them Shong's wife's dead body, which was torn and eaten alive by something. The only part that was left was the head connected to half of her neck and left shoulder to her arm. By now, night have covered every inch of the woods. One of the men turned to Shong and said, "Now that we have found your wife's body, it is too dark to do anything. So let's cut down some wood and bamboo to make 3 houses above the ground to rest. When morning calls, we will take your wife's body home for burial. If not, we will bury her here tomorrow morning, because her body is not in a good sight to bring home into town anymore anyways." Everyone agreed to the man that said this, so everyone quickly helped chop down trees and bamboos, and by 11:30, they managed to make three houses. Once everyone was up in each houses, they could still see down clearly at Shong's wife's body on the ground. By now, it was around 12:40ish. Shong's body head starts turning to look at them and smiling at them. Even though they were all men, seeing this sight made them feel lifeless. After Shong's wife head turned and smiled at everyone, it turned back to its dead position and laid it still again. Now the men that told them all to make treehouse directed that no one is allowed to go to sleep. They are all going to stay awake and see what's going to happen next. An hour later, Sean's wife's head starts turning again and smiled at them. This time, her head too raised up as if pointing to them. By now, some of the men peed in their pants without shame. Another man in the group thought for a while and said, "It looks like she's trying to tell someone or something that we are up here." Once those words were out, everyone starts shooting guns down below around Sean's wife's body. Another man said, "This is too scary. We have to man up and stay till dusk. We are not going to take her body home. We will just bury her here tomorrow." After hearing about it among themselves, everyone agreed. By 4 in the morning, they climbed down, divided the men into 2 groups, a group to dig Sean's wife's graves and a group to guard the surroundings. They managed to bury Sean's wife's half body. Before leaving, Sean kneeled in front of his wife's grave and cried, "I love you so much, but when you were alive, why did you treat me nasty now that you are gone? Is it because there's something or someone I cannot see forcing you to do this to me? No matter what, even though you scare me like this, I will love you always. Our life together will end this way. Sorry I'm not able to take you home with me." After everyone came home and the story of Sean's wives echoing throughout town. This story was first told by one of the men that went with Sean that day, and since then it has been passed down generations after generations.